across the land, joepags.com, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, email. It's all right there. Also, Newsmax TV. It's the Joe Pags Show. Glad to have you here. Glad to have back the president of Judicial Watch. It's Tom Fitton. Tom, how are you?
Hey, Joe. Good to be with you again. Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. I love the investigations you guys do. You're uncovering so much corruption. I hope everybody follows Judicial Watch on Twitter and follows you, Tom Fitton, Fitton, on Twitter as well, because it's unbelievable what you're uncovering. So I had a caller yesterday or the day before who said, hey, I don't know if you know that guy Tom Fitton, but you should talk to him because he says hundreds of thousands of illegals voted in the last election. And I'm going, do I know Tom? We're like a couple of meatheads who go to the gym all the time. Of course I know Tom. And I have him on the show all the time. And I love the work that you guys do. What is this story that people are running with? Some 800, 900,000 illegal votes? What is that?
Well, what I did is I came up with an estimate of the number of aliens, both legal and otherwise, who may have voted in the last election based on an Old Dominion study that looked at the registration rates of aliens and the voting rates of aliens. So when you think of the tens of millions of aliens in the United States, both legal, here are green cards and student visas and things like that. And on top of that, you have an illegal alien population. You're talking about, 30 plus million people.
Right.
Now, a percentage of them register to vote illegally, but they're registered. And once they're registered, even voter ID laws won't necessarily prevent them from voting. And the study concluded that they tend to vote for Democrats, 80 to 20%. And so when you extrapolate the numbers from 2008 into 2018, you come up with this estimate, a back of the envelope estimate of 900,000. And certainly it's that information or that study is being backed up by the numbers we're getting out of Pennsylvania and Texas, where they're getting tens of thousands of individuals who are likely aliens and who have been voting. And so, the left would have you believe no one, tens of millions of people here illegally and otherwise, who aren't supposed to be voting, none of them are voting.
Tom, that's actually the argument. They're saying we don't need
3.5 million or 4 million, whatever the number was, 5 or 6. My guess is it's somewhere in between. And so when you hear numbers of like 900,000 or 1.2 million maybe in the presidential race, that's pretty, I think, rational analysis.
Well, I don't disagree with you, but that is the argument. Here in Texas, the voter ID, the photo ID law has been attacked mercilessly. The attacks are, it's A, racist, it's B, disenfranchising people, C, we have no proof that an illegal or somebody who's a non-citizen has ever voted in any election ever. And your answer to that would be just look at the Old Dominion study from 10 years ago, and you're just applying it to today's numbers.
Well, not only that, but Texas recently came out with some concerning numbers, upwards of 100,000. They had to pare that back because they made a mistake in the way they calculated that total number.
Right.
But certainly tens of thousands of aliens were registered to vote and seem to have been voting. So they're whistling. Look, the left has zero interest in election integrity. I'm not going to argue with them whether there's aliens illegally voting. Obviously they are.
Right.
We can argue about what the numbers are.
Right.
But you only need one vote to sway an election.
Agreed.
The question is, why does the left oppose citizenship verification, voter ID, cleaning up the rolls, virtually anything that would increase the integrity of our election process? And I'm convinced, because there's no reasonable explanation otherwise, that they want to be able to steal elections if necessary. It's not a concern about race, since there's no evidence that these laws are applied in a racially inappropriate way.
Right.
Everyone needs an ID. Minorities have the same access to IDs as anyone else, and there's no study to suggest that it depresses minority turnout in elections. In fact, some studies suggest that voter ID and increased election security increase minority turnout, because in urban areas, in my view, where people understand that elections can be gamed easily, if they're reassured that their votes will count, yes, they will vote in larger numbers.
Yeah, absolutely. It's Tom Fitton. He's the president of Judicial Watch. Follow both Judicial Watch and Tom on Twitter. The feed is filled with incredible stuff. What is vote harvesting in California? What does that even mean?
Well, no one else does it like California, of course, Joe. It allows third parties to go and collect ballots and deliver them supposedly to polling places, and there's virtually no check on who's picking up the ballot.
I don't have to bring my own ballot to the polling place. Somebody shows up at the door.
Knock on the door and say, "I'm a ballot harvester." You hand them your ballot, and they bring it in. Or that's what's supposed to happen.
Or they filled it out in their kitchen. I mean, we don't know where they're getting it.
Well, you don't know. Well, if you're a ballot harvester, you don't know if you're getting a proper ballot. That's true. But the ballot harvesters, you could be a kid doing it. You could be an illegal alien doing it. You could be a Democrat doing it and then hiding the votes of Republicans who you suspect you collected ballots from. Or you could be a Republican doing it and hiding the votes of Democrats you suspect voting for the candidate you don't like. There's virtually no check on that. Now, I think in other states you may have the ability. You might be able to give your wife the ballot and who can bring it to the polling place for you. But the idea that you have third-party strangers walking around collecting ballots in lieu of going to the polling place or mailing in an absentee ballot, it's obviously a recipe for fraud. We've begun an investigation, and it shows you, and it ties in nicely to this absurd debate about the Electoral College, which is designed to protect the nation from ballot fraud and voter fraud.
Right.
When you've got ballot harvesting, it's a recipe for fraud. That's a pretty good reason to keep the Electoral College, to keep that fraudulent activity as limited as possible to the poor citizens of California.
Yeah, and also, call me crazy, a good argument to keep the Electoral College is that I don't want L.A. County to elect every president. Maybe I'm just dumb like that, but that's exactly what would happen. Without California, Hillary Clinton loses the popular vote. California and L.A. County specifically, maybe San Francisco, would be electing every president. It's Tom Fitton from Judicial Watch. He's the president. Go follow both him and Judicial Watch on Twitter. And it's judicialwatch.org, right, Tom?
Yeah, we're on Facebook as well. We're all over.
All right, so go and follow them. The investigations are amazing. You don't think Mueller should be investigating anything, by the way. You think this whole thing was a complete waste of money, waste of time, and you've been merciless in going after the fact that he's ignoring what really happened and going after the witch hunt, right?
Well, he's been targeted like a laser on President Trump, and as a result, Mr. Trump has been harassed. The president's been harassed by the Justice Department through Mueller since he's begun his presidency. Remember that this investigation didn't begin with Mueller. He was handed the investigation that began illicitly, illegally, improperly, you name it, under the Obama administration. So the harassment has continued. It's a seamless garment, seamless web between Mueller and the Obama DOJ FBI operation that was targeting Trump with the help of Peter Strzok, James Comey, and people like that.
Right.
So now we're going to have the Justice Department start writing a dossier on President Trump. I don't buy into that. And I think the Justice Department needs to freeze, in the least, the Mueller operation, given all the corruption in its inception and the controversies about its operation and the involvement of Peter Strzok. For instance, Andrew Weissman, who's as biased as you can all get out in terms of being anti-Trump and pro-Hillary Clinton, he's going to be writing the report. He's the number 2 deputy at the Mueller special counsel operation. He's not much better than Peter Strzok. And I don't know why Attorney General Barr just doesn't put a stop to it.
Do you think, Tom, because you're investigating Hillary Clinton and all that crap that went on before the election, the dossier, you say more emails are out today. We want to talk about that. Will there be a special counsel seated now? What would it take to get a special counsel to look into the actual corruption that happened, the actual coup attempt that happened in our country?
Well, it's not going to happen as long as Mueller's allowed to operate.
Yeah, but when he finishes, then will they do it?
One more time, Joe.
When he finishes, and it's supposed to be this week, who knows when it's going to happen. When he finishes, does the president just say, hey, I want you to look into this? Does the attorney general have to do it? Do you guys have to sue from Judicial Watch and make that investigation start? What happens? Because Hillary Clinton can't get away scot-free. We know what she's done through watching your reporting.
Well, this is a question for the attorney general. Obviously, the president can order the attorney general to commence an investigation. The problem that Hillary Clinton had, I don't know whether she should be convicted, but I do know she should be investigated competently and fairly and with a legitimate investigation where someone doesn't have their thumbs on the scales. That's all we want, which is a fair investigation of Hillary Clinton's misconduct. It's pretty evident she committed misconduct, but it's also pretty evident that she was improperly protected by the Justice Department and the FBI, who conducted a corrupted sham investigation of her.
And this week alone, it sounds like even as high as Obama was like, wink, wink, don't push this. Just let this go.
Oh yeah, don't get me started on Barack Obama's involved in all this. Of course, he didn't think Hillary Clinton did anything wrong. Of course, that was a signal that he sent to the Justice Department and the FBI. So that was one of the reasons.
Well, how is that not obstruction when he said that on 60 Minutes? How is that not obstruction when he basically said internationally, there's nothing there, don't worry? I mean, he
should have just been more brazen and blunt because he is president. He could have said, look, we're not going to investigate Hillary Clinton. It's too political. We're not doing it. That would have been the more honest way.
Right.
Than to pretend that they weren't doing it the dishonest way. And of course, Barack Obama was also guiding the anti-Trump effort. He was involved in discussing the dossier, and I think Joe Biden was involved in that infamous Oval Office meeting shortly before Comey took the dossier and went and confronted then President-elect Trump with it.
It is Tom Fitton, the president of Judicial Watch. One more quick one, or we're just about out of time. Tom, thanks for the time as always. You say there are more emails that were released today. I had no clue. What are these emails that we're talking about? Are they Hillary Clinton's emails, something connected to the DNC, John Podesta? What are we talking about?
Oh, these are new Clinton emails that the FBI was able to recover. These are the emails that she tried to delete or hide. And they include 5 new classified documents, emails with classified information. They include communications from Lanny Davis. Remember Lanny Davis?
Oh, yeah.
Michael Cohen lawyer, Hillary Clinton friend.
Yeah.
And a really nasty anti-Israel email from Sidney Blumenthal, the Clinton Foundation associate and Hillary Clinton's secret advisor at the State Department. Pretty incredible stuff. Again, further demonstration why we need finally a legitimate investigation of what Hillary Clinton did. Now, we're deposing witnesses right now in the Clinton issue. So we're doing our civil case, trying to get answers from the court about what went on with the Clinton emails. But it'd be good to have the Justice Department do an honest investigation rather than trying to obstruct ours.
I can't tell you how much I appreciate the hard work you do and your folks do over at Judicial Watch. JudicialWatch.org. It's Tom Fitton. He's the president. Follow him. Follow Judicial Watch on all the social media and get to that website right now. Tom, thanks a million. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you, Joe.
Back after this in the Joe Pag Show. Stay right here.